and he has so much. I can't compete with Mayer. But yeah, I mean, I remember he put us on tour for the first time. Back in the day, he was one of the first guys that like really believed in the band.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You guys played together, you mean?
Yeah, we used to open for him, when we were still in a van. And
wow.
This is like
way back.
Back in the day, first record John Mayer and first record Maroon 5.
Wow.
And we were like, he put us in front of one of our biggest crowds when we first started. And he was a big watch guy.
Yeah.
So I kind of watched him start to collect. I'm like, that's cool.
Guys, Adam Levine in the house right here.
Hello.
This is Adam. We're actually at Adam Levine's house right now, which I feel like is a rare treat, at least for me, to be here.
We promise you'll start calling me Adam for the rest of the interview, so it's not weird.
So Adam is one of those guys that you see on the internet, or I've seen on the internet for so many years, and you can tell he's like a real watch guy. There's a few of them out there that we haven't crossed paths with yet, and this is one that means a lot to me because I've known about your collection through various sources, we'll say, for years, and now here it is.
Here we are. Some of my collection is no longer with us because I do sometimes let things go, and I probably regret 99% of them. So we'll pour out a 40 for the ones that aren't here.
We'll pour out some Adam-made coffee.
I made the coffee today.
Pour over.
I poured it over myself. I preheated the cream. You guys, we take care of our guests here.
You really did do that, for the record.
I did.
So how did you get into watches, and why watches at all, considering what you could be into?
I'll never forget the first time I bought a watch. I walked into a store. I think it was in Manhattan. Oh, it definitely was in Manhattan. I walked into Tourneau, and I was like, I'm buying a Rolex today. It was just a really exciting kind of moment because I had enough money to buy I think it was an Oyster, super, super simple stainless day date. And I walked in there and I got it, and it's like a really amazing sense of accomplishment being able to buy a Rolex. What an amazing thing.
Yeah.
My mother now has that watch, and she is now betrothed to my first born daughter.
Oh, so that's amazing.
She's going to get it, but hopefully not till she's like way older.
And what was happening in your life when you were finally able to afford a Rolex at retail like that?
I think the band was finally seeing some success, and I'd always kind of had a weird love for really nice watches. I remember when I was in New York in the day when guys would come around the corner with like briefcases filled with fake Rolexes. I had bought one for like $20.
Yeah. And
slowly, I would hide it from my mom because she, of course, would be horrified if she saw me wearing it at age 12. And like it would slowly start falling apart, like over time. And I would take it off when she was around, and then I'd throw it on. Sorry, Mom, I don't think she knows that. But yeah, I always loved watches. I thought they were so cool and really I don't know, they looked cool on people. I always noticed them.
So how did you go from buying a steel Rolex at Tourneau in New York City to owning a Rainbow Daytona, a Panda 6263, 5970p, etc.?
The addiction kicked in. I made a couple more dollars, which was nice. And I don't know, I fell in love with vintage watches. I think that was, I kind of slowly started to realize over time that the newer things on the shelves weren't, especially then, in the time that I was able to start collecting, it just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
And some friends and people and guys that I knew that collected started showing me their watches, and that is when I fell in love with that watch, the 6263. It's the most beautiful watch I think I've ever seen in my life, and it's always been my favorite by far. I remember the first time I saw someone wearing one of those, which you don't really see very often.
Not a normal life. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away at how architecturally kind of simple it was, and loved the story about how they were kind of duds when they tried to sell them and they couldn't give them away, or they actually did give them away, I think, at one point, right?
Yeah.
And a $1,500 discontinued short run watch was the most desired watch on the planet. I think that was really cool.
Then you have a gold 6263 as well.
And that was kind of a newer acquisition. I always thought that was maybe, other than the stainless Newman version, kind of the most elegant Daytona that they made. I just loved it. It was so simple, but so classic, and just never went out of style, and still haven't done any better. And I love that one.
And then we have the Rainbow, rose gold Rainbow.
The most beautiful, but also the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
And this is a watch that I can say, I have seen you wear very publicly. In fact, you wore that at the Super Bowl.
I wore it at the Super Bowl. And that's one that I'll obviously never part with. And it's just, but I remember when I first saw that watch, and someone offered me one, and it was before they exploded. They were already kind of amongst collectors, like people
They were a
wanted
thing,
them.
yeah.
And he showed these watches. I think he showed me a yellow gold one, or a couple of yellow gold ones. And I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like, not like maybe for my grandmother, you know, who's a wonderful woman. But I just thought it was so kind of ugly, or maybe not ugly. That's a bold word. Maybe just really a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It still is a lot.
I know, but then you need to take another look at it, and then you realize, oh my gosh, this is so beautifully made, and it's so different, and there's nothing like it. And since it was released, everyone's tried to go after it and rip it off, and it failed. So it's a special one, and it's a Daytona.
It is a Daytona. Yeah. And so the thought process for wearing this watch at the Super Bowl was simply like, this is the biggest forum, therefore the loudest watch.
Yeah, but I always liked that. You know, I always liked being able to show off when appropriate.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Right. I mean, you own your success.
Why not? You only get one life.
That's right. And we have a 1675 Pepsi.
That was a gift from my wonderful wife.
No kidding.
Yeah, she bought this for me, I think about 7 or 8 years ago. And I forgot what the story with this was, but it belonged to a military guy. There's actually like an inscription on the back, a pilot, I believe.
Oh yeah, look at that.
My wife put another one in for me. It's funny.
And was this a just because gift, or was this a...
This was an anniversary gift. And so of course the inscription and it being from my wife makes it even more special, but I love those old GMTs are so cool.
Yeah, and you have the modern version of it right here.
Modern version, which is very new. Yeah, I just think it's special and classic, but it's also, you can take it anywhere. It's not too heavy. It's not too old, so you're not afraid of it.
Yeah.
I love a good stainless kind of modern Rolex for that, for touring usually.
And then kind of the ultimate, I don't want to call it the ultimate LA watch, but it's kind of like the ultimate like you made it watch, and I have one of these as well for the record. But it's a day, it's a classic in yellow gold.
It's Presidents, you know, like that's, to me, that's a special one because my late great manager who passed, he wore that exact watch. That's not his, but he wore the same watch. So like I just wanted to have this, and I put his name on the back.
Oh, that's cool.
Always will think about him when I wear it or when I look at him. But yeah, to me, this is like a full-on I made it watch. Also feels very like there's a lot of chest hair with this watch. It's very 70s to me. That always makes me think of my guy.
That's cool. I mean, it's amazing how watches can do that. They really can. I mean, as you may or may not know, like I got into this because my grandfather gave me an Omega, and like that was like I wanted to be like him, and therefore now here I am.
So cool.
And then the 5970P, and this is the only non-Rolex on the table.
Yeah, I've never been a non-Rolex guy. I've kind of dabbled in certain things and like, had a few APs and a couple of things and a couple of Pateks. But I think the only one I had before this was a Nautilus, like an old vintage jumbo. Yeah. Which is great, and they make amazing watches. But this one really kind of blew my mind. It's just like every single thing they do is a work of art. So
it is.
It's a little different, I think, than the way Rolex is. Rolex, I feel like they're, at least the way from my perception of Rolex, is they market themselves as like more kind of like everyday, very durable watches.
That's it. That's exactly it.
And these guys, I've just kind of started getting into like the artistry of it, but it's pretty intense. Like these watches are like magnificent.
Yes. Yes.
And this one in particular caught my eye because it's very, I think, kind of subtle for what they usually do, and feels a little bit like my favorite Rolexes do.
Yeah.
But they're just stunning, and I think this one's going to be considered legendary forever.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they care so much more about the craftsmanship and like really what goes into it from a watchmaking perspective. Yeah. 5970 is as good as it gets for sure.
So my first one, I'm now going to go down that rabbit hole. So I'm sure next time we do this, there'll be a smattering of grand complications.
It is a deep and wide hole to submerge yourself in. And then the watch on your wrist is kind of like, in some ways, an amalgamation of some of these. So what is it like designing a watch like this with Artisan's Vision F?
My experience with them was pretty singular, honestly, because I've never really had an experience like it.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten the call from anywhere else yet to design a watch with them. And I called them, so I kind of felt like I was fanboying out.
Sure.
And then they said yes, and I was like, really? It was so cool, and honestly, the collaboration was so genuine, and like we were just like two kids the whole time, kind of going back and forth. What about this? Hey, what about this? He was just so receptive and always got back to me, and I always got right back to him, and we did this from afar too. I'd always be salivating for new photos of wherever we were at. And where we actually landed, I thought was a really special place. So it was just fun, man. You feel like, you know, you want to throw on the coat and like go into the lab. It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're really making something.
Yeah, really. I mean, this would never have existed without either one of us. And we went back and forth about the skeleton, yes or no, and how much of it would be showing, and would all of it be showing. And what I love about the Newman dial kind of covering it was the fact that you didn't only really notice it until a second glance. So you're like, oh, wow, there's actually a skeleton dial in there.
I actually did not notice it until I looked at it up close.
Which is great, because up till then, it kind of looks like this strange, bizarre Newman you've never seen from the future. And futuristic, too, I think is kind of rad, because you obviously will never have seen these elements all together on any Rolex, and probably never will. But like, I think that was the thing, is like, I've never seen, unless I'm mistaken, but I've never seen a Daytona with a kind of white-ish bezel in gold.
No, I've never seen that.
You don't see it. We kind of really just wanted to break the rules, but also have it be rooted in the classics. So that's what it is to me.
So what this is it's a contemporary Rolex modified by artisans de Genève with skeletonized subdials, kind of Paul Newman dial, but the dial is luminous?
Yeah, so is the bezel. The whole thing lights up anywhere where you can't see.
And was the idea you just wanted to see something that had never been done before?
Yeah, it's just kind of cool. We didn't want it to feel like we were copying something that already existed, because I don't think, you know, at the end of the day, if you're lucky enough to kind of have the real thing, you don't want to like have it feel like a fake. Right. You want it to feel like new. Right. And that's what I love about this company, is that nothing that they do feels redundant or like they're recycling the past. It's like all very new creations.
So this is not like a commercial idea. This is your watch, made for you, designed by you, and that's it, just one watch.
There's only one.
Yeah.
It's been almost a year in the making. And it took a long time, but we wanted to just we wanted to do it right. Yeah. You know, I think you can tell in the detail, because we trust me, we haggled over like every little thing.
Yeah.
So.
And it seems like there's this progression that I've seen with other friends, even myself, where like you kind of start off as a purist and you're buying the 6263, the 59.7, like the shit you're supposed to have, whatever that means.
Yes.
And then you realize that actually, like, okay, this is great under its own guise for sure, but there's also stuff that like maybe fits your lifestyle a little bit better. So like you're a little bit of a car guy. There's an original Porsche Speedster over there.
Yes.
Right, that's a real Porsche Speedster.
It's a real Speedster.
And then sitting next to it is a Bronco.
It's a completely brand new refabrication of an old 69 shell Bronco.
And so that's like completely upgraded and completely modified to fit the life that you have now, with kids living in Montecito, and a little bit more usable. Yeah,
and I think you get to a point, you're totally right. There's this rule book for collecting. Yeah. And you get, eventually your rebellious side comes out, and you're like, you know what? Screw your rules. Like, I don't care. Yeah. Quality, attention to detail, all these things can still exist outside the sphere of what is like acceptable to collect. And so, yeah, I mean, Singer is a great example. Sure. I mean, sold that, which was a huge mistake. But like there aren't very many. And that's the thing about Artisan or about Singer, or about these amazing companies with really, really like amazing people who don't play by the rules. And that, to me, that kind of rebel spirit is like what I love about the good ones. There's plenty of not good ones, and I think that's where a lot of that customization gets a bad reputation. Right. But this clearly is different, and I think everyone kind of knows that at this point. Yeah. And it's fun, man. It's fun to change it up.
In the collecting journey, any other people, even in the industry or not, that have influenced you or been a kind of a part of the journey? Like any other guys in Hollywood or music that you connect with on this, or is it not that way?
I mean, I can't keep up with Mayer. Right. Mayer's like, he's more passionate about it, and I'm being honest, and he has so much. I can't compete with Mayer. But yeah, I mean, I remember he put us on tour for the first time. Back in the day, he was one of the first guys that like really believed in the band.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You guys played together, you mean?
Yeah, we used to open for him, when we were still in a van. And
wow.
This is like
way back.
Back in the day, first record John Mayer and first record Maroon 5.
Wow.
And we were like, he put us in front of one of our biggest crowds when we first started. And he was a big watch guy. Yeah. So I kind of watched him start to collect. I'm like, that's cool. Yeah. And my grandfather used to, I used to sit on his lap, and he had a, I believe, I could be wrong, but an Omega. Mm-hmm. But I don't even think it was that fancy, because he's not a fancy guy. Yeah. But he had a chronograph, definitely. And I distinctly remember, and this probably has something to do with why I love Daytona's chronograph so much. Yeah. I'd find out, he'd tell me where to to start it, and I would start ticking and stuff, and then I would stop it and reset it and all that. And that's like those experiences, like they stay with you for
Forever.
sure. The sense memory of that for sure. You know, James Bond. Come on.
Yeah, you can't deny James Bond.
I mean, James Bond wore a Rolex. That's where the story ends for me. Like, and anytime someone else is interested in like another type of watch, especially like younger buddies of mine who, you know, they do well and they're like, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna get that. I'm like, get a Rolex, dude. It doesn't get better.
Yeah.
Like, why would you go anywhere else?
Yeah, yeah. I've long said on our site, like your collecting kind of starts with Rolex and ends with Rolex. Like there's a lot of stuff that happens in between, but you start here, you end there.
Yeah, you see other people, you know. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the true love of your life is probably a Rolex.
Yeah. So you've been collecting now for a long time. I mean, longer than most. I mean, I've seen it from afar for years now, since we started the site. And so there must have been some mistakes made. I know I've made quite a few.
So many.
Some watches that you had and sold too early, watches that you shouldn't have bought that you did, watches that you didn't buy.
I think that any watch I sold too early.
Understood.
I was offered an old Milgauss, you know, 58 or something like that, Milgauss, for very little back when, and it was a little bit too much of a stretch for me financially back then. Should have done that. And you know, I bought and sold. I had a Comex that I shouldn't have sold. I had a Mill Sub that I shouldn't have sold.
Me too.
And now they're worth so. And the Comex jumped, you know, and the Mill Sub jumped. But again, you know, we can sit here and like tell those stories, but at the end of the day, like, it really shouldn't be about that necessarily.
Yeah.
That's always nice, but you gotta love the watch.
Yeah.
You know, you really gotta love what you're wearing.
I think there's actually something to be said. Like, this is not, I think anyway, not a small section of your collection. This is your watch collection.
This is it.
This is it.
And this, by the way, there's been editing recently.
Of course.
You know, I don't know, man. I just don't know that I need all that.
Yeah, I get that. And I appreciate that and respect it. I mean, I think sometimes we do sit downs like this and it's like, okay, here are 400 watches. Let's pick 12, you know? It's nice to see somebody that like just loves the whatever this is, 8, 9 watches that he has and wears them all the time.
And like I said, they'll change in and out, a couple here and there. But these are basically essentially the ones that I can't imagine I let go of, you know, more or less. Now, famous last words, who knows? Sure. But the sentimental value of the ones that I put out today are really important to me, and they're not going to be sold anytime soon.
Dude, Adam, thank you so much for the time. This has truly been something I want to do for a long time, so it means a lot. Man. And hopefully we'll see you again soon. We'll see that on tour.
I've been geeking out about you guys forever, so
thanks, man.
You're finally here.
We made it.
Awesome.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks, brother.